Say what? Look, I'm on tour right now.
It's the new OGs. The new OGs is a State Madison production, and it's brought to you by Sun Life Solar. Sun Life is helping homeowners in Illinois take advantage of a program that lets them get solar power at no cost. If you're a single family homeowner, zero cost, nothing out of pocket. If you're a single family homeowner in Illinois, you can lower your electric bill, you can raise the value of your home, and you can do something good for the environment without paying a single dollar out of your pocket to do so. In fact, Sun Life can only work with you if they can save you money. Sun Life is a sun power dealer, an American panel maker with over 30 years of solar experience. And they even have a referral program that pays out as much. I got so excited. They even have a referral program that pays out as much as $500 per referral. So head over to www.
That's a hell of a reason to get excited, Bobby. $500 is that's a lot of that's a reason to get excited.
Got me choked up for a minute, you know. So get in contact for a free consultation or to refer someone you know. That's IllinoisSolar.today. We are also brought to you by People of Comedy. That is a network that we are on.
Yeah, baby.
Daily what has been happening on the streets of Chicago. They also have a whole host of podcasts that you can check out on their page on Facebook. Those pages all stream those shows live too, which is amazing. They're streamed all over the place. Go rate and review, subscribe to their podcast, follow what James Webb is doing. He's got the most powerful podcast studio in the city of Chicago, probably the state of Illinois. Get behind People of Comedy, folks, and follow what they're doing. I picked the right time to ask Excel what's going on. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's happening, man?
What's
you
up,
picked
man?
the perfect time.
Right?
Look at those clouds.
Life is good, man. I mean, despite all the craziness, man, my life is good right now.
Yeah.
The podcast is growing. We're getting some people watching. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
And I'm with my son. Despite all the craziness out in the world, I'm hanging out with my boy. So that's great.
Yeah, that is a good thing to be able to get some time with family. I was saying last week how it was cool to see that, you know, my daughter, who's 14, is actually taking on a bit of an activist role herself and is like paying attention and is aware of her blackness in the midst of all this and is not shied away from that at all. It's
take after her papa.
It's well, you know, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where you're never really sure, but sometimes the world decides some of that for you too. You know, I know that's probably some of her experiences so far are not necessarily dissimilar to mine because she is someone who could pass as maybe not black if she didn't want to and doesn't really, you know, but you know, the reality is what it is. So
if she was an actress, a blonde wig would change the whole game.
You know, South American or something like that, probably, right? It could so or from anywhere else. But anyway, man, how's your week going? What's been going on besides the craziness that's still happening right now? The reality.
Well, as you can see, we got the new studio kind of set up. I got better lighting. I think I probably sound better to people listening right now. I've had some comments from some people listening about the sound quality. I got a decent mic. So I spent the week trying to make this new OG experience a little bit better because we got some more shit coming.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So you got your studio set up. I've got my studio set up. Should be arriving in the next couple of days. So we should be rocking.
Oh, live on air. We got the banners. The banners will be here next week. So next show you'll have the S&M behind you, and I'll have the XL comedy behind me.
Banners are coming in, so we're having that going here soon. So we're gonna have this whole thing bumping. I'm having some sound issues. So I'm just trying to figure some shit out. Somebody, of course, tried to call me in the middle of this, and it's fucked my sound. It's never
just
ends.
so you know, on our end, you sound great. You had something earlier where you dipped a little bit, but you're great now.
Yeah, I think that was probably when the call was coming in. I'm trying to see if I can maybe reroute it and get a better sound out of it, and maybe that'll work. But
that's great better? Right there. Whatever you did.
Oh yeah. Boom. Okay, yeah, good, because that's better for me too. So we're going to try and work with that, and hopefully that works. That's the headphone back in. So we might as well jump right into it because I know that one of the things, as I mentioned on the in part, that people probably skip over, they skip over that little ad part in the beginning, is that People of Comedy has been out documenting everything that's been going on with the protests. I know if you are a person who has not gone out into the world a whole lot or isn't around some of these neighborhoods that these things are still going on in, you may think the protests have stopped because CNN and MSNBC seem to stop putting protests on the air when they stop, blowing shit up and looting and rioting. So like now that the protests are again very, very peaceful, now the cameras don't really want to come to the neighborhoods and see what's going on anymore. But James Webb and People of Comedy have made a concerted effort to make sure they're out there. So we're going to try and keep this as a tight show.
There is a phrase that supposedly is a new phrase: "If it bleeds, it leads." So they want to see the craziness because that's what makes people tune in. But the fact that they don't even mention it as if it's not happening. Sorry, my words aren't coming out to get right. But they don't even mention it.
You took a large bong hit as we started, so that's possibly a factor. Anybody who's paying attention to the timeline is like, he's having trouble with words now. I wonder what could have led to this.
The fact that they don't even kind of do a drop-in, protests continue today in Washington Park, blah blah blah. And then if they don't want to send a crew out there because they got other shit, hey, it's the news, man, whatever. But to not acknowledge it that it's still going, and there's still change happening. There's still shit falling down left and right where people.
Cuomo was on TV signing a bill this morning.
My first year of college was at University of Louisville, and even though I will readily admit we don't have time for me to tell all the shit, but I was an asshole.
About how you didn't really belong there. Also, how you had to get the fuck out.
Yeah, they were super racist. Like the biggest dorm hall there was Confederate Hall. They had a statue of General Lee on a horse in front of Confederate Hall. Louisville, that territory was with the Union. So there's no reason for there to be a Confederate. That's the first thing, because Kentucky was split. That's one of the things that whole Mason-Dixon, I think that's Tennessee, but like the whole fighting cousin shit, Kentucky was one of those states. And Louisville was on the north side. However, when I went there in the late 90s, they said they were taking that statue down. They literally took it down like last year before all this shit happened. They took it down. And it was in the 90s, they were like, people were protesting and saying they need to take it down. That's how racist Louisville is.
Yeah.
And they are making changes. And I'm sorry, I said all that to say
changes.
The city of Louisville, Rand Paul, who vehemently argued down a lynching law just like a week ago, signed on to a bill to stop no-knock warrants and other things. He's joining the Democrats.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, that fits in with Rand Paul's brand, right? Because Rand Paul's a libertarian, and so the right to your own property and your home is a huge part of his thing. So
it was a part of his thing when they were asking about the lynching shit too, but that motherfucker was going to stand up against it. But what I'm saying is the winds of change have happened in a fashion that somebody who just a week ago was arguing against this shit.
Right.
Well,
I mean, the real winds of change have been in America as a whole, right? Like the stats on people who supported Black Lives Matter as recently as 2 years ago and today is the most, I think it's the most unprecedented change in a political opinion on something in the history of tracking changes in political opinion on shit. Like the change in the last 2 weeks on Black Lives Matter has been greater than the change in support in the last 2 years.
So I mean, we have a running joke on this show when we give shout outs. And so this is one of the reasons why I give shout outs, because I like a term paper. I like giving credit to where it belongs to. So shout out to Sam Norton.
Sam Norton loves shout outs.
Sam Norton put this in my head. This is not my thought. This is out of his big brain. The change comes from, I thought it was, everybody's been saying it's a build up. People are tired of seeing this. It's not that. It's that coronavirus has taken away every other distraction. So this time you had to look at it. Like this time, this 8 minutes and 46 seconds, you had you had to watch it. You couldn't go to the movies. You couldn't go to a bar. You couldn't go to work. Or even if you did go to work, there was nothing after work. You went home, you went to work, and you went home.
Right.
And that's all that was on TV, and that's all that was on social media. You know what I'm saying? You would have had to just been watching nonstop Netflix and not left your house would be the only people confused about this.
To the point where, like, to not be watching it is almost a complicitness in it, right? Like,
yeah, you're refusing. Like, that's
it's one thing. It's one thing if you had the excuse of having to go to work, or because
I got other stuff going on. I don't want to care about this.
You had tickets to the game or to the ballet or whatever the hell you did, but like, ain't no tickets to no ballet.
If you're a white person that doesn't know any black people, like if you live in one of the many, many, many parts of America that are like just completely white, like Wyoming.
Pretty much. Except for
like this whole states, North Dakota, they have Native Americans. They probably don't have a lot of brothers. But anyway, my point is, there's reason for them to be like, why should I care about this? I don't know any black people anyway. And so in the past, you had the excuse, you had the escape. But because of coronavirus, like the combination, the combination of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor,
and they're marching in Salt Lake City, dog. They are out in Salt Lake City, motherfucker, and that is like.
But I mean, it was a three. Like we were just trying to talk about Ahmaud Arbery.
Right.
We were literally just trying to get into that, and then we did it the next show, and we had to talk about Breonna Taylor.
Right.
And when we talked about Breonna Taylor, the following Monday was fucking George Floyd.
By the time we got back to the weekend, we were out in the streets.
Yeah.
By the time we got back to.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why you see so many white people out in the streets is because all those kids got sent home from college, man. They've been home doing nothing but binge watching Netflix and shit and not seeing their friends. And so now you have a chance to actually change the fucking world, and you have no place else you have to be. Fuck yeah, let's go do this shit.
There's also this situation where, like, you also have a large percentage of, like, so, you know, when you talk about economic disparity, there's also still a bunch of white people who ain't got no money either, right? And so you're also looking at a bunch of people who are looking at this going, man, it sucks for me, and I ain't got no money. Imagine having no money and also being black. That's got to really suck. And for that reason, I'm going to go fuck some shit up. And that is absolutely reasonable. That is absolutely reasonable. You know what I mean? Like, I am in no way interested in seeing the Black Lives Matter movement co-opted by situations that are not a part of making lives better for black people in this country. However, it shouldn't be surprising that a bunch of other poor people who weren't necessarily black were also like, now's our time to also let you know that being poor is bullshit too. Right? Like, that's not a quick, like, for people to be like, why are these white people running around? We're all mad. Like, we were all looking, we've been looking at the bourgeoisie this whole time. The argument with people as we were going into the pandemic were the fact that the people that wanted to keep businesses open were all the mid-level business owners who were trying to make sure they could keep being your slave masters in the first place. And so, like, when you throw on top of that the deaths of black people who absolutely for no reason should be dead, regardless of what their history is, and then you throw on top of it the fact that all these people are home, like our good friend Sam had mentioned, like, yeah, you can't draw out an easier way to create a situation in which the entire world now is erupting. Berlin is getting mass protests. You name it, everywhere across the world. This isn't like this isn't one thing. You know what I mean? This is everything.
If you are to the right of Germany on social justice, check yourself, baby. check what you're doing with your life, baby.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
These Germans have beat you to treat people better game.
Yeah, right.
That's wild.
That's so wild. So the homie Dave put out a special. I don't know if I call it a special. The homie Dave.
Your camera's off. Do you know that? Oh, there you go. Okay.
He put out 27 minutes and 21 seconds. Is what he put out.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's a comedian, it's going to be called a comedy special. But I don't know if that's what I would have called it.
Hey, man, that's exactly how I described it to my son this morning. I had to take my kid to school to. I watched it this morning, and I had to take my kid to school to empty his locker. And he was all excited because he heard about it. And he said, Dave Chappelle dropped a new comedy special. And I said those exact words. I don't think I like. He's a comedian, so
they gotta call it a comedy special.
Comedy special, but there's not a lot of comedy in it. It's
special for sure. It's definitely special.
I don't think there's any.
I've heard comparisons to Nanette. I think it's more along that line.
I think that is a bullshit.
Okay.
I mean, so.
Well, it's spoken word with a comedic value to it.
Yeah, I get in like the most reductivist ways, then sure. But
yeah, I don't know anywhere where he was. I mean, maybe there was like one or two spots where there was like a genuine laugh. Like a genuine
So I watched it twice now because I wanted to see, like, I wanted to pick up some notes on some areas. And it's interesting because it very much opens up and shows that he is working with all kinds of people. There are young people there, there are old people there are old white people there helping, working. So this is in his neighborhood. There are black people. You see a black guy waving somebody in, a bunch of people are wearing masks. Honestly, one of the funniest things to me was at the beginning where there's one black chick who's got her Chappelle mask upside down. I was like, the sea is upside down. And then you see like the setup that they've got organized there for everything that's going on, which is like, in other words, like, listen, I did this in the most safest outdoorsy way we possibly could, right? But I think that what makes it difficult for me to say it's like Nanette is that this is something that is an in the moment absolute response to circumstances that are happening, and not a collected, prepared oratory or special that's built up of a number of different like life experience. This is about this thing that's happening right this instant in the world. And I think to say it's like Nanette is to reduce it to something that makes it less than what I think it is. Not to diminish what Nanette is, but like what this is a man who is angry in the moment, who is always expected to be the funniest guy, who is arguably especially living one of the funniest men in the world. Easily has the ability to make people laugh for a longer. I mean, when you talk about records for stand-up, this guy is
20 hours, 22 hours.
He's done some ridiculous nights where he's just hours and hours on stage. Where 7 hours of stand-up is like a slow night sometimes, right? Of him just literally up on stage doing that, and the gravity of him getting up on stage, and you can tell how difficult a time he is having of trying to be funny in the moment. Because he even opens up by talking about how weird the situation is. You know what I mean? And tries to make a real lighthearted joke right off the top, like a little bit of an icebreaker kind of a joke, and even that got a tepid response. And so he had to literally
joke?
No, it was before that. It was something about it was something about people.
The Ja Rule joke didn't land either, and I think everybody saw it coming.
The white couple that were in the front row together, where he said the car ride home is going to be crazy, and then he was like, he stopped for a second, and he was just like looking around a little bit, and he's like, all right, and then he lays into it, and you can tell like this man is for real angry. He's upset. He's upset, and it's like to think about how white people kind of laugh in the face of that, and I don't mean laugh at Dave Chappelle, but laugh in the face of black anger, was like, this is where you have to get before people start paying attention to you. You know what I mean? Is that you have to get the guy who's supposed to be the funniest guy in the world to get on stage and be visibly upset for all the white people and all the white fans and all the black people who aren't sure how they're supposed to feel, and all the people that shit on him because he didn't say the right thing about this group or that group. Like for him to get up there and be that mad, I mean, that's heavy. You know what I mean? And explaining his relatable version of fear as an opener when he talks about the earthquake. and like setting the stage, because everybody's been through like a hurricane or an earthquake or a snowstorm or a flash flood. Like no matter where you live in the country, there is a climate thing that usually happens. It's probably pretty quick. That could probably freak you out, whether it's lightning in a place like Illinois, or whether it's a flood like if you're on a coast that comes in quick for a quick day or whatever is gone, or for a quick rainstorm that comes in that flash floods, or an earthquake if you're on the West Coast, and how short that is and how scared you can get sometimes, and then equating that to 8 minutes and 46 seconds and talking about George Floyd and trying to get that across, you know? It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's crazy. When I first looked at it, I don't know why 846 isn't already like etched into my brain, but when I saw 846, I didn't make that. I was like, is he just doing 8 minutes? And I was like, oh wait, no, 8 minutes. Oh yeah, okay. And,
you could steam vegetables in 5 minutes in the microwave. You understand what I'm saying? Dude, you understand what I'm saying, Doc?
You know everybody doing the kneel thing? Like I stood and did I did a moment of silence where I just stood in 8 minutes 46 seconds, and that shit was awkward as fuck. Cause like
you almost pass out if you close your eyes.
Me and my son did it in the living room. We were watching the first memorial, and we did it in the living room, and I didn't crack a joke, but I was still like, this is weird now. But it does lay home how fucking long. Like, if I tried to kneel for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, my knees would start their own protest. Like there would be a whole stuff with my knees would. Like, this is bullshit. But it's insanity. It's insanity that he stood there with his hands in his pocket. As Dave gets into heavily in the material, I don't want to recap his whole thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he gets into all that. I think some of the other stuff that he really gets into too is explaining like where like the part that his role was supposed to be in all of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like really kind of breaking down what's going on with celebrities and the issue of their role in all of this. And like he said, he's been telling you this, and he says, have you not been watching my comedy? Like, this is...
Yeah.
He's been telling you what's been going on. He's talked about the streets and letting the streets speak, and that the streets will decide at some point. He's said that for a long time. That's not a new thing. And it's so funny just to see, like, the recognition of that and what's been going on with that. You know what I'm saying? I thought he cracked a great joke about Azalea Banks. I thought that was funny.
He just threw that out there. I tell like Azalea.
Yeah. Do you hear what he said right after that? He goes, I'm the worst.
So was that him confessing that he hit it?
I don't think so. I think that's him copping to knowledge of a story that he hasn't addressed publicly.
Okay.
I think that you can.
I think that.
So the joy of being on stage and doing that is that like you can address it. You are aware of a situation, and then leave people more wondering what your play is and all of that at all. Over giving no, of course he's not trying to give it away. He's just trying to let you know that he knows this is the thing you've talked about, right? Like, and he made it funny. I thought the other thing is like his going into. When he starts going into all the different people who've been killed and the stories behind them, and you get the flashes to those people, I thought that was pretty amazing. Hearing those stories again, and especially the one about John Crawford, which was a story that I had read about, who is the guy that was killed by a police officer who had let Chappelle go. Who literally like recognized Chappelle and was like, I know you, man. Yeah, you can get out of here, basically. You know what I mean? And then the next night kills John Crawford. Who literally had no idea he was even spoken to by the cop until he was getting shot.
Yeah. If you watch the video, like he didn't even have a chance to respond. It was like, put the gun down, pow, shoot.
Yeah. I also like the fact that he went off on.
Not just to leave that there, for anybody who doesn't know the John Crawford story, this happened in a Walmart that sold guns. Right. He wasn't even holding a real gun. It was a toy gun, I believe, that he actually had. But the Walmart he was in sold guns. So if he was walking through a Walmart through the Walmart with a gun, that would have been a thing because it was an open carry state and that Walmart sold guns.
It would have made perfect sense. It would have made,
Yeah.
it would have made perfect sense.
There was no
He should have
reason
been.
to freak out about him walking through the Walmart with a gun is basically what it is. Like,
Yeah,
the cop had no reason to be freaked out. Nobody had a reason to call. Nobody had a reason to be freaked out.
No, there's no reason for any of that stuff to happen. And then him getting into the reason why there's a pushback, and like the way the pushback happens with Chris Dorner and all the rest of that. I mean, it's just, you know, honestly, if you watch that and you see the way that he relates these instances, you recognize that there's and this is the point, is that in 27 minutes he relays a history of incidents that have been happening and how they tie together in a way that would make you very understandable of the anger that he has in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Including the fact that one of the only few delegations of African Americans to ever be invited to the White House to even discuss matters of African American importance, other than when Barack Obama was in office, includes his great grandfather, who was a slave.
The first one ever. Yeah.
Who was a slave at one point. And you know, he makes a point in there as well as talking about how not only how recent slavery was, but like how upsetting the business of slavery was. You know what I mean? Like people talk about slavery and they go, yeah, people were slaves, and then they're just like, but they brush off the idea of like the everydayness of slavery, right? Like,
yeah, this is what I was talking to somebody, and this is how I would describe white people, the vast majority of white people's experience with race at all.
They think it's like having a job you can't go home from.
No, I say it's like studying a foreign language in high school, but never doing anything else but what you did in high school. So you just know what you were taught, but you don't know anything about the culture that created the language. You don't know anything about how the people actually speak that language and what it means. You don't know anything truly about the culture, but then you approach it like you do because you were taught this about the culture from somebody who also got a secondhand, probably experience with the culture, and you have these opinions and you're yelling. It would be like arguing with Parisians, lifelong Parisians, about how to say "we." Like the proper pronunciation of "we," and you took French for 2 years in high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's the level of information or knowledge that white people typically come to a conversation about race with. And I don't mean this in any disrespect, because I'm sure there's some people who think they've done their research or done their study and whatever, but this is something that has been every moment of my life from the moment I took my first breath. Your research doesn't mean a fuck to me.
No.
Like, whatever you research doesn't mean shit to me. It's literally every experience I've ever had in my life from the moment that I recognized I was having these experiences.
Right.
Which is, hit the mic, sorry about that if that sounded fucked up to you, but from the moment I started having experiences, from the moment I realized myself as a being, these experiences have been happening to me. So I don't give a fuck what book you read or what research you have or what data thing that you pull up. It means fuck all to me.
What's funny is that like there is no real data.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing that's funny about it, is like people will argue with you about systemic racism or institutionalized racism, but the only data that's really available shows that like the Civil Rights Act was a success for Black people overall, and that we've been better through things like affirmative action that have taken steps to try and end those things, although they haven't been steps enough, which is the whole point. Yeah. And like you said, I am a living version of systemic racism. I can break down systemic racism in my very existence at this moment. Okay, like I can explain to you systemic racism very easily as to how I am here right now doing what I'm doing instead of doing other things. Okay, I can break down systemic racism to you pretty easily. I put a post up today that said, that was basically asking the question of everybody, when was the first time that the cops came to your home in the middle of the night with guns and batons to take your father to jail instead of to treatment or to rehab by social workers? For me, it was age like 4 or 5. Like, that's not a joke. That's a real question, right? Like, yeah. And the overwhelming response is that largely
you will find more black kids that will have an early story of cops coming to their house to take their father away, or catching their father somewhere in the street at an early age, in which your
or
first
older brother or uncle
older brother or uncle or but like, that is a traumatizing experience early. If you are taught that cops are good, you automatically learn that your father is bad. The reason why he's even doing drugs in the first place is because of systems that were in place that led him down a road before I was even here, which means I am suffering in some way, shape, or form, traumatized by an institution that has already created a system in which failure is created. And that my success is only through like someone at some point, or maturity, surviving long. If I survive long enough and I don't do enough stupid things based off of the lack of information I was supposed to get, I might be able to figure it out enough to be okay. That is institutionalized racism. That my father was adopted because there weren't systems that were available for his mother to be able to take care of him. He was turned over to a family in which the father in that family had heart trouble because of the lack of health care available in the black community. So he died when my dad was 13, which left him without a great role model to grow up with, which opened him up to the opportunity to do drugs as he was growing up. Like, there's no better explanation of institutionalized racism than watching those things happen. And
that and the fact that that your story, there are people who will say, a friend of mine, Alan McDuffie. I've known Alan literally as long as I have memories. Okay, we went to school together almost all the way through school until college, and we've been buddies ever since. White guy, lives in New York, great guy. And he pointed out another friend, or not another person we went to school with, that had a post saying basically that black guys choose the life of the street, and they choose to do drugs, and they choose to be blah blah blah, and that's what they choose if they were hardworking and blah blah blah. And he was shocked about it, and I'm not saying this to call Alan out. Alan was shocked because he didn't know that this dude, he's like, I had no idea this guy's a white supremacist. And then I started telling him about shit from high school. Like, he was like, did you know that this guy, Mark, I can't remember his last name, I wouldn't say it anyway, but first name's Mark, I don't give a fuck. Did you know he was a white supremacist? And I started telling him about shit from high school. Like, yeah, because we know, like, black people, we know you have experiences that your white friends don't see,
right,
or they don't recognize. And I would say this is a quick story. I was talking about one of my friends from college last year. Another one, the four of us graduated together, and we are still good friends. We still hang out. He's white. Jason, we were driving from Kentucky Fried Chicken. There was a Kentucky Fried Chicken like 2 or 3 miles from our campus. And they had a buffet, and after practice, we literally ran out of the gym, hopped in Jason's car, went to KFC. So we were starving. And on the way back, there was another black player in the car named Greg, and on the way back, a cop going the other direction passes us, and I immediately say, hey, Jason, your license and all that stuff up to date? And Jason's kind of laughing and goes, yeah, that's a weird question. Why are you asking me that? He goes, you know anything going on? And he's like, yeah. He's like, what's going on? And I was like, because you're about to get pulled over. And Greg's like, oh, you saw that too, right? And Jason's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? And I was like, look at your rear view. And as he's looking at his rear view, the cop's making a U-turn. And he goes, holy shit, he's making a U-turn. Like, Jason's narrating this like, hey, he's making a U-turn. Anyway, the cop pulls us over. And Jason's not incredulous. He's not the angry white guy yet. He's laughing because he doesn't get what he's like. How the fuck did you guys know? What's going on? He almost thinks it's like a prank or something. And then the cop walks up to the car and goes, "Are you okay, son?" And he's like, "Yeah. What's going on?" He goes, "You guys have any weapons in the car? Any guns, knives?" And I swear to you, he said this: grenades. Or any kind of like he said some kind of other thing that some weird ass thing you should never have. Shit. Right?
Maces, do you have any spiked bats?
When he said it. He didn't say it. He didn't say it with a laugh. He didn't say grenades or blah 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 anything
he
like that.
asked the question as if he knew that you had them in the trunk and was waiting to see if you were going to lie to him about it.
You know, like like can't believe I caught the international, grenade smugglers.
Right.
You know, the random nigger brothers.
Right.
And so Jason now is starting to realize what's happening because this all happened so fast. We obviously didn't have a chance to give him a whole quick lesson on racism. So he's realizing what's happening, and he flips into angry white guy. And the whole time, me and Greg are just mumbling, "Calm down, Jason. Calm down. Calm down.
Right.
Calm down." Because we know nothing's gonna happen to Jason, but something might happen to us.
Yep.
And he finally, like, the cop keeps asking like all these weird questions, and Jason's getting upset. Jason's like, "Damn it, man, we just came from basketball practice. We went to go get some food, and we're trying to get back to campus." And he goes, "Oh, you guys are basketball players?" "Yeah." And he goes, "Have a nice night," and walked off. Like, it took almost 5 minutes to get to that.
To get to basketball players. I'm pretty sure we had. You 6'7", nigga. If that wasn't the assumption.
We're all 6'7". All of us are 6'7". The whole car is 6'7". This is college basketball players, nigga. I was like the 7th tallest motherfucker on the squad. There's like 6 other motherfuckers taller than me.
Oh, shit, man.
6'7's not tall at high-level basketball.
No. You're a small forward size. That's a big power.
Jason's 6'7". Greg's like only 6'3" or 6'4". But yeah, everybody in the car long as fuck. It's like... But it never dawned on them. I'm pretty sure we had our warm-up. I'm pretty sure we had our practice jerseys on. Because I don't think we even took showers. I think we took our stanky ass to KFC because we were dying. We had $30 between us, and that was enough to get a buffet at KFC. So anyway,
possibly killed.
My point is, like, that shit like this happens, and like, Jason was a cool dude. He'd been playing basketball with brothers his whole life. He had not a racist bone in his body. He had no fucking clue what the fuck was going on. We saw this shit before it happened.
So the thing that's important about that is that, like, when you then are seeking someone who is white to advocate for you and they don't have the experience, they can't advocate for you correctly.
Because
their thought of what they think you need advocating for isn't even in the realm of what we need.
And here's the funny thing, and I want to be clear to anybody who's white who watches this at any point. I don't want to come off like I wasn't happy about my friend's response. His response is the actual appropriate amount of rage you should have. He was outraged. He was very upset. He was calling it bullshit and all that stuff, but in that moment, it wasn't helpful to us because turns out in Indiana, everybody's a fucking basketball fan. Yeah. I went to college in Indiana, but everybody's a basketball fan. That's what saved us. That was a uniquely Indiana situation. Basketball would not have saved us if I was in Iowa or Ohio, unless I was near Cincinnati, maybe.
Right. I think one of the important things you said at the end was that this is the last chance for civil discourse. Like, this is the last. We're going to try and keep this space open. In other words, the stage, right? The stage is the last shot at civil discourse we got. And if he's essentially telling you, if he can't keep finding a way to be funny, then we a rat-a-tat-tat. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, listen, man, this is the last bastion of me trying to be funny with y'all. We've been trying to tell you. I've stepped back. I'm letting the street speak. You know what I mean? And this is the close to funny as you're going to get me to be. I did like that he called out Candace Owens. I've been waiting for somebody with enough cred in a different way to be able to call her out, because I think a lot of black people tend to avoid Candace Owens. And the Hodge twins and all these other stepping fetched ass niggas out here.
Yeah, I don't even know who the Hodge twins are. That's how hard I don't fuck with them. I don't fuck with them. I saw We're a Professional show. Bobby created a schedule lineup, and when you had the Hodge twins next to Candace Owens, I knew everything I need to know about them sorry motherfuckers already.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, God fucked up twice.
The reality is, like, Candace Owens is somebody who benefited from affirmative action and then turned her back on it and has used it against, has tried to turn against it.
The only space I have for anybody who's on that side of the aisle and in blackness is, we talked about this like 6 or 7 shows ago, Clarence Thomas and his crazy, I'm going to kill him from the inside.
But he's not, though. He's now the most conservative Supreme Court judge out there.
Yeah, he wants to be. Yeah, he wants to be conservative. Because he doesn't think America should give black people anything, because in his mind he believes the greatest growth. He believes the people who the society
it's a Darwinistic attitude.
Yeah, the society that made Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all these great leaders and all that shit. The reason why we got them was because we was getting our ass kicked so fucking hard that we fucking built these superheroes.
It's so wild that what he doesn't understand is, like, the whole fight that was about, though, is to not have to keep having to make that fight happen every year.
Yeah.
You can't call yourself a prosperous country if, like, every year we got to fight the same fight over and over again.
Like, the simplest explanation of, like, what racism does and how much pressure and how much shit it gives on us is we have to be superheroes. I can't be funny. I gotta be funny as fuck. I gotta be move the crowd funny. Like, there's not a lot of space for a bunch of chubby old black dudes. Like, I have to be rock the world funny. And, like, all comics be like, yeah, everybody has to be rock the world funny. Everybody watching this, if you're a comic watching this, you know goddamn well there's plenty of pale-faced motherfuckers that's mediocre funny, and they get shots. And I'm not bitching. I'm saying the rate. I'm sorry, I lost. Go ahead, jump in. Go ahead.
Here's how I try and explain it to people that don't get it, because a lot of times when you see people like Candace Owens or the Hodge twins, or I saw this shit the other day. So there's been this shit going around, and if you ain't black, you probably ain't seen it, or maybe you have because you got one black friend. But there's been this shit going around where black men have been putting a picture of themselves and tagging other black men and saying, I'm a black man and I don't put other black men down. We're trying to build each other up. We're trying to do something positive right now. So I'm trying to tell my brothers I'm proud of them, blah, blah, blah. And I was fortunate enough to be tagged in that, and I passed that on and participated in it as well. And then I was jumping around and I saw in this one, I keep a few white Republicans on my page just to see what type of shit they're talking about.
You gotta know what they're talking about.
I saw one of them reposted this one from another cat who is mulatto, right? And this motherfucker tried to shit on that whole movement. And I'm looking in the comments because it's just, I mean, his shit is shared and there's, I will not betray my white side and blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking through the comments, and the only comments of support are by white people. There ain't a single Negro in them comments that are like, right on, brother. Like, look, nigga, they will hang you in the street too, okay? When the shit goes down and they go round up all them white people that thought it was so nice that you respected your white side, they will slay you in the motherfucking streets just the same, okay? Yeah. They'll slay you in the streets just the same. They don't give a fuck. Because every time I've been pulled over with a white girl in the car, they have always asked her if she is okay. And I look this version of black. Okay, like,
yeah,
this is not a thing you can escape by embracing people that aren't really trying to embrace you, and who have written rules to make sure you can't be a part of that program anyway. And so, like, there's no more of that bullshit. That shit is not going to fly. And the reality is like only 8% of black people vote Republican. Which means if you are a white person and you see a black person espousing some of your favorite Republican views, and all you see is white people big up in it after that, that is the wrong black person for you to link up to. You don't attach yourself to the wrong nigga, because if the shit goes down and if our team of linebackers and power forwards is winning in some type of a war, you will get no quarter. Okay, that is. Yeah. I don't scare anybody. I don't scare anybody because Tucker Carlson is out here saying that we're coming for you. We are not technically coming for you, but we are defending our own shit from here on out. That's for sure going down.
For sure.
There's been a lot of companies that are trying to do shit. Yeah.
Oh, no. I was just going to say not Tucker Carlson. Companies doing shit.
No more bongs before the show, XL. No,
no.
bongs
It
before
wasn't
the
a
show.
bong. It wasn't a bong thing. It was a thing that was tying on to what we were talking about before, but it was a drag on. I'm editing myself. That wasn't editing the clock. I'm editing myself. I wanted to help us move. I know we're trying to keep it tight.
Have you seen? Okay, we'll chalk it up to you trying to keep it tight this time. Have you seen the shit going on with Starbucks? Starbucks sent out a memo saying that they were not allowing anybody to wear their own Black Lives Matter shit in, and I'm not sure if their issue was just bad email timing or if it was reaction, because they sent one email out that said, "Do not wear anything in that says Black Lives Matter." And then somebody complained, and they said, well, the reason why is because we were working with our black partners to create like an actual shirt for everybody. So all Starbucks can wear it. But that was like the day after they had told everybody.
I didn't see the second part. I didn't hear about the second part.
So the first part was like, y'all can't wear no Black Lives Matter shit. And then so I was like, what the fuck? And then it's like, we're actually working with our team of black partners, our black partner network, to create a single shirt for everybody to wear. It will be Black Lives Matter. As he holds up the Dunkin' Donuts cup.
God, I swear to God, because of that shit, I was like, what? Fuck Starbucks, man. Fucking DD.
So here's the thing.
Okay, let's go.
I would roll a Dunkin' Donuts if they just knew what heavy cream was, or even
they don't have it. They don't have it.
They don't have any version of. They got milk and skim milk. That's it.
Yeah, but
if you can find me a franchise coffee spot that can steam heavy cream, I will go there instead of Starbucks. Find me a franchise coffee spot that can steam heavy cream, and I'll go there instead.
Is there a bean? What is it? I can't
Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf is a LA spot.
Yeah, they don't have one up in Wisconsin?
I would never go to Starbucks if there's a Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf here. Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf blows Starbucks away. Easy. And they probably believe Black Lives Matter.
Other places, I just can't remember where those other places were.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I can find them. I really care. I've been making coffee at home because why would I leave?
No, they have them in Illinois. They 100% have them in Illinois. There's just like 3 of them, though.
There's no Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf in Illinois.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man.
I would drive 3 hours for that if it was there.
No, okay, remember where our office was for
Yeah, there's no Coffee Bean there.
Where we used to go get, what's that place we used to go get taco bowls?
Yeah, that's not it.
I think it's one over there, man.
It's not it. I'm telling you. It's not it. Anyway, they tried to. So you know, I don't know how this is gonna help them right now. But they tried to pull a Drew Brees. They Drew Brees their whole.
So now they all kneeling when they give you your coffee.
That Drew. Did you see Clark Jones say he's gonna tell Starbucks every time he goes in there his name is Black Lives Matter?
So they have to say.
Dude, I gotta say real quick, Clark Jones has been absolutely fucking crushing it for the last.
Oh my
month.
God! When Pelosi and the Democrats came out with the Kenty Cross shit.
Yeah. He was a person that I learned that they did that from.
Oh man!
I saw that shit. I was like, where did he get this picture? And then he did it again, and I was like, oh shit.
Clark Jones is killing it with black representation right now. He's knocking it out. There's going to be a black bachelor now. This is how companies are starting to try and recover after all this shit. They finally got to have a black bachelor, which I want to be mad about, but at the same time, for all these years, I've been bitching that they can't have no black people on the show. So, like, there's part of me that's like, listen, take all the things they're going to give you, right? Like, all the fabulous prizes. If you win a game and they give you a bunch of prizes, you don't shit on any of them. You just take them all.
I'm about to tell you something, B. I'm about to tell you something.
Yeah.
1 or 2 things are going to happen, and I promise you this. If you're watching this show, hit me up. I make a lot of fucking calls, and I eat my words when I'm wrong, but I'm about to tap dance on this shit. If they have a black bachelor, they are never not going to have a black bachelor again.
It's going to be the best bachelor ever.
It's going to blow the fuck up, my dude. It's going to be... Bachelor is insane already. You finna put a bunch of black bitches in there competing with a bunch of white chicks? Are you fucking kidding me? That shit... Have you ever seen Flavor of Love? Oh my God! Like this is gonna be through the roof. And on top of that, like when I say there's never gonna not be another black bachelor, they are going to either spin this shit off and have two bachelors, and there's gonna always be a black bachelor and a white bachelor going at the same time.
Like summertime, wintertime bachelors.
Yeah, or they just gonna do like a run where we're like, well, we gotta see where this one goes, and we gotta see like, motherfucker. There's a bitch named New York. By the way, I say bitch. I'm dropping bad bitches and all this shit because that's how the fuck I talk. So
that was the best part of that Chappelle special when he goes, "I say bitch because black."
Yeah. So there's a chick in New York. This bitch is still a celebrity, and that shit was 2006 or some shit like that. That she was on Flavor of Love. Like, I'm trying to tell you, they have a black bachelor. They are never not gonna have a black bachelor. This shit is gonna change the game, son.
Yeah, there's some other changes in the game we're going to talk about too. Band-Aids is coming out with a multicultural Band-Aids now. They're going to get all the colors, which for me has always been my easiest example of white privilege. Like whenever anybody questions white privilege, I'm just like, Band-Aids. Band-Aids is white privilege. There's no greater example of white privilege than Band-Aids. If y'all need Band-Aids, you just go get it. You're good.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a premise for an old hacky joke. But it's also the easiest example of white privilege that exists if you're trying to explain. If somebody doesn't get it, that's the easiest example. Is be like, what about Band-Aids? Band-Aids is white privilege. If I want a skin tone Band-Aid, I don't have that. Like, it's a shitty joke, but also it is the truth of what's happening.
I think it's a shitty joke, and I think it's a very poignant.
Well, the premise has been used a ton. But dating apps have started adding badges for Black Lives Matter, which will help you also easily weed out what you want and don't want.
When you said help you were just specifically, you didn't, that wasn't out to the general audience. That was you and I.
Yeah. Us. I don't know who else is going to help, but for you and me specifically.
Hey, whoa.
What? On OkCupid even you can even set it to decide whether that is not very important, somewhat important, or very important to you.
Wow.
So you could be like, I need you to say yes, but I also need it to be very important to you, not just some like, kind of into Black Lives Matter.
Hey, I'm gonna be very clear. I'm cool with kinda.
Let's talk about what Black Lives Matter is actually accomplishing right now. The Minneapolis City Council has come out openly to say that they are planning on dismantling and recreating the public safety narrative in Minneapolis. That is happening today, and I haven't had a chance to look at the bill that Cuomo signed today, but he is sitting down with the state is going to sit down with all the municipal police departments, and they're going to have to sit down with all their communities and figure out a way to reform their departments so that they can spend more money on social services and less on police, or else they get no more funding, which is a backhanded way to say we'll give you more money if you meet these really basic needs that we want you to do. But it's an outward step. You know, they're changing no-knock warrants. That is now outlawed in Louisville. Those are just a smattering of the number of things that are going on. Statues are being taken down all over the place. There's been an effort to try and rename a bunch of Confederate bases. There's a bunch of Army installations. People are just now learning this. That there are a bunch of Army installations that are named after Confederate soldiers and you know, Ku Klux Klan members and shit like that. You know, there's a bunch of them out there.
Hey, by the way, I don't know. This isn't on the list. I forgot to mention.
I'm gonna cut camera for a second. Bring it back on.
Okay.
Keep going. I'm with you.
Oh yeah. Okay. I don't know if he is speaking tonight because I didn't see if they announced if he was speaking tonight. But pretty sure Trump is going to do his race initiative speech today or tonight if he hasn't done it already. I have not watched TV all day. I was trying to set up the booth or whatever here. But anyway, my point is this. If he does it, and you are in the market, here's an Xavier Lamont stock tip for you. If you're in the market and you can short in the off night after hours trading and you can short for Monday, go short, baby. The market's going to crash. Whatever he says about race is going to piss everybody off and the market is going to crash. I promise you this. If he talks about race this weekend, because if he done it yet today, or if he does it tonight, he was waiting until after the market closed. because that's what they do whenever he has to give like a direct one-on-one speech. They wait till the fucking market close so he can at least try to have a good weekend. It was up, I think, earlier. When the last time I checked, it was up earlier today. But if he speaks this weekend, the market is going to take a nosedive Monday, I promise you.
I'll be honest, the market has been nosediving already. It got super high for a couple of days when the job numbers first came out, and then the reality that the recession actually hit in February killed everything.
Yeah,
when they found out that
1,800 points on Thursday, right?
Right.
One quick point on the speech. It was written by Stephen Miller, a white nationalist, advisor to Trump. So look forward to that.
The one that's coming out this weekend.
Yeah, that specific one.
That will be awesome. He's not planning on. Trump is not going to take down any of those bases. By the way, he's not going to change their names. I'm not even going to name the names of them. But imagine being a black soldier who's got to go to these fucking bases with the names of these Confederate people on there.
Dude, Trump is. There is a thing. Shout out to Robert Hines. Me and him spoke about this in the past. When Ronald Reagan was running for, I can't remember if it was his first election or re-election. I think for some reason I feel like it was his re-election. Doesn't matter. Where he needed to solidify the deep conservative vote. So it's probably his first election.
Oh no, it was his first election when he went down to Mississippi.
Yeah, and he went to this town that the only thing that it was known for was for killing civil rights workers, a bunch of civil rights workers, a bunch of black people. That's what it was. That's the only thing that town was known for. And he launched his campaign there. I believe Trump is literally.
He didn't just launch his campaign there. He went down there and gave a tremendous speech about states' rights, which was specifically what the South fought the North over.
Well, slavery was what the South fought the North over.
Right, but you understand though, like the core of slavery was they wanted to keep
the right to do what the fuck they wanted to do.
So him going down there making this great speech about states' rights feeds into their narrative, right? Which was a big. He didn't just go down there and make a speech in the place. He made a speech about the right of states' rights in the place.
Yeah, and on top of that, for anybody who doesn't know the context of it, to think that there's maybe some more being made out of it. Literally, political pundits at the time were befuddled because Mississippi was in the bag. It was not a state. When you launch a campaign, usually someplace either where you have a bedrock of strength of, so you'd have a huge outcome, or someplace that is up for grabs that you need to go down and get like some more support for. So you go like to Florida or something like that, where you're gonna, because you want to show Florida they're important. So you're going to launch your campaign there so you can keep saying that every time you fucking go back. That's how politics works. He went to a state that he didn't need because he was going to win it any fucking way to launch a campaign in a town that was like, it's small and podunk and had no other fucking political
to make a statement to the South. He was a guy from California trying to round up the South, round up the Southern racist vote.
Other than to get the Klan vote. Other than to get the fucking hardcore right wing.
I mean, it's Lee Atwater's Southern strategy. If you go and look up, if you listen to this or you're watching this, go Google Lee Atwater Southern strategy, and you'll see the way that they twist everything from. I mean, he even says, he goes, first you say nigger, 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 then you can't say nigger anymore, and then you change that to busing, then you change it to segregation, then you change it to the war on drugs. I mean, he literally lays out the exact strategy that's created the situation that we're in now. Speaking of places that you didn't expect to do something that did, NASCAR on the pushing of Bubba Wallace has said they're going to eliminate Confederate flags, so there's no more Confederate flags allowed at NASCAR races.
I'm not crazy if this Bubba Wallace kind of look like a low budget Russell Wilson.
I don't know. I don't know if that's what I'd tag him as. You like to think people look like somebody else all the time, though. So
that's my thing. It's my thing. I do it all the time.
Your whole thing is trying to figure out who somebody else looks like. I think it looks like a great Bubba Wallace. I love this idea. I love the idea of NASCAR trying to lure black people in. I'm all for this. I think we should definitely take over NASCAR next.
I got a lot of friends who are from Hollis Springs, Mississippi, Memphis area, in Tennessee and Mississippi, and southern Mississippi and Jackson. My brother lives in Jackson. Black folks in the South like racing. They don't like NASCAR. Like Hollis Springs has their own like tiny little dirt racetrack. And motherfuckers like soup up their cars and go down there and race.
Let's take over NASCAR.
Yeah.
Are we taking over? Are we doing this? Are we taking over NASCAR? Do you know how dope?
Hey man, it would be dope. It would be so dope,
dude. The picnics outside of Talladega. Are you fucking kidding me? The barbecues. We would crush it, NASCAR.
I mean, it'd be great. And it's one or two things is gonna happen. It's either going to create a situation where I said something to my son earlier today. That was a conversation about just different types of people, and I was like, my two of my best friends who happen to be white are Southern white dudes, and it's something about Southern white dudes, like the ones that don't hate me, seem to be really great fucking guys. So I feel like if the ones that hated me, that had that general hate, like maybe if they hung out with some brothers, maybe this whole thing might be fucking. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding.
I mean, that is the whole issue. Is that there's not enough integration. In fact, the way that celebrities really need to be playing their part in this, and the way that a lot of white people can play their part in this, is not by making another fucking video that they're going to put out together as a montage, but possibly by like going to their next local city council meeting and pushing for more integration locally, right? Like that's an easy way to help out. That you don't have to go march anywhere. Just go to your next city council meeting and be like, why are there not more black families in this city council meeting? Is it because they don't live here? What can we do to help change that part first, and then help get them integrated into more areas that way? I mean, those are the ways in which, pushing for more black leadership in roles in which there are people qualified to take them. That's a way you can participate.
The thing that's weird is when our cultures blend, the shit works. Look at athletics.
Trust me.
Look at entertainment. Yeah.
I'm living proof, goddammit.
Look at Bobby Hill. That's working for you. Who's that not working for? That's working for everybody.
Look at Josh Ballou. Look at.
Yeah.
We're running wild.
What's the great guys? Jabuki.
Jabuki. Working for a bunch of us. By the way, this is the 57th, 53rd. That's right, 53rd anniversary of the Loving decision. The Lovings were the first interracial marriage that was allowed to happen. It was allowed in '67.
That's insane.
Yeah. So like literally like 7 years before my parents got married, literally less than a decade before I was born, it was illegal for my parents to get married. So like,
That's insane.
If you're listening to this or watching this, you can't see James make a face, but I can see James make a face. James, did you make a face at that stat?
It's yes, I did. That's fucking.
It was
insane.
illegal for like a decade before my parents got married. It was illegal for them to do so.
It's crazy the way we still live in, boys.
So we don't have to go back to slavery to talk about injustices for black people, right? Like we can go back 50 years and see, like this was post segregation. This is, you know what I mean? Like these are laws that were just changing on a grand scale as recently as like in our lifetimes easily, right? Where this segregation was still a thing. Legally getting married if you weren't the same race as the other person was illegal until '67.
Like redlining was.
In fact, today is the anniversary of it. So
redlining was legal until '77.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit that people don't understand. Georgia, just fucking the Georgia election where you could see it was mostly in minority neighborhoods that there were problems with the voting shit.
So I think there are 59 or 159 districts in Georgia. I think there are 9. I'm sorry, there are like 9 districts. I think that had voting booth problems of all the districts in Georgia. All of them are the predominantly black districts. They're the districts that have predominantly black populations were the ones that had the voting booth problems. None of the other ones did. And so this is an element, again, of white privilege where when you go to white people and you go, the voting booths are fucked up. And they go, not ours. They work fine. What do you mean? That must be an error on your end.
I live where I live. I live in an area. My area is regular, but I live very close to Civil War, motherfucker. So like my voting experience, they have pizza and soda. Like it's literally walk in, hey, how's it going? Blah, 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 everything else. You want some pizza? No, I'm just down here to vote. Good to do things. Thank you. Click, click, click. Boom, boom, boom. There's multiple stations. There's spacious. I've never once even seen close to a line. Maybe this year there'll be a line because of COVID. Maybe there'll be a line. But even that, I imagine for where I live, it's going to be pretty fucking easy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna vote by mail. I voted in the primary by mail, and I'm gonna vote by mail because fuck Donald Trump. I'm voting by mail just to piss Donald Trump off. Literally. just because he don't like that shit.
There's been a lot of talk lately about, it's funny because people talk about how protests don't do anything or how things don't get accomplished, which is completely foul. Because one of the things that we were talking about was defunding police. We were talking about how there's been some places, Minneapolis is talking about dismantling theirs. Defund the police has gone from something that nobody was really, not nobody, there are plenty of black people and people of color and a lot of people in poor economic situations talking about it, but was not widely known until recently. Even last week, our first thing that we were posting about taking action, we were talking about 8 Can't Wait, which is was more reform than abolishment, which is, or defunding, which is what we really need to be talking about, which is defunding. So, 8 to abolish, I think, is a lot more of a movement that we need to start paying attention to. I think there's been a lot of argument over this last week. I see a lot of people who are left-leaning people, who are progressives, who go, ooh, defund, we can't have no police, or, defund, we don't want to take all the police money away. And I want to be really clear, it's always like, oh, you should go with some reform instead. And the reality is defund means defund. It doesn't mean keep funding normally and tell them to wear body cameras. That is not defunding the police.
Also, yeah, there needs to be different things a rape call. A person driving a squad car should not answer a fucking rape call. There's no reason for that person to be there unless the attacker is still in the building. If the attacker's still in the building.
I'll be honest, man. There are plenty of situations in which you can de-escalate a situation without further violence happening. You know what I mean? Sorry, if you're one dude who's got some blade and you just committed some crime, if we show up with 10 people that don't have guns and have non-lethal defense weapons, that person still doesn't have to die. Nobody has to get majorly hurt. Nobody's got to get shot. All those things can happen, even if that was your force. But the real issue here is that people are rebelling against the idea of the word defund. And what they don't seem to understand is that Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedure require the use of that word if you're talking about giving any program in a budget for municipalities, local, state, federal, less money than they had before. So if we're giving you $1.8 billion this year and we're giving you $1 less next year, we are technically defunding you. So defund doesn't mean tomorrow we're going to take all your money away. It just means you don't need a tank in fucking Dayton, Ohio. It means,
yeah,
right? You don't. It means the city of Chicago does not need a $1.8 billion budget. Could they get by on 1.5 next year?
LA and New York both have $6 billion fucking budgets.
Can you move that money? Budgets. And the thing is, people go, who do you call when something happens? Well, first of all, most people don't call when something happens. The rate of cleared nonviolent crimes, I think, is 7%, which means even if we call you, you aren't going to solve it. So we call you, you ain't going to solve it. We call you, you show up, there's a chance that we have an interaction with you that doesn't go well. I watched a brother who owned a gas station. Somebody tried to come in there and rob it, and he had a gun. And so he stopped the guy from robbing it himself, calls the police for them to come. They come in. He's got a magazine from the gun in one hand, so he's got the gun cleared, so it's not going to hurt anybody. He sets it down. They're yelling at him. They arrest him, start beating him. So it's why would we call? So hold on. So why would we call you if that's the concern? So instead, if we call you, you don't come, or if we call you, you come and you don't actually solve the crime, or we call you and we're potentially the victim of your crime. How about instead we just call out somebody whose whole job is to come and take the report? They don't need a gun. They need a clipboard and some empathy. right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You got robbed. Is the guy gone or the person gone? Okay, we'll send over one of our social service workers to take your information, and then at some point you get to a point where maybe there's like a detective level group of guys or women, people that go out and deal with like the dangerous parts of some crime. But like most of the time, like this idea that cops are in these daily gunfights with people out in the streets are just not reality. Less than a third of cops ever even pull their weapon out in like a situation. Less than a third. But yet 30% of the murders are black people by police. They take up 0.2% of the population, and they're responsible for almost 7% of the homicides. For what? These are our tax dollars. So when people talk about defunding the police, what they're talking about is taking some of that money that was going into your fucking military grade truck that you have and your fucking super riot helmets that you only use because y'all fuck up in the first place. If you didn't kill black people, you wouldn't have to ever put on riot helmets. I'll just tell you that right now. So we can eliminate those from the budget and put that more into social service programs that affect people in the youth stages earlier, change your programs towards drug rehabilitation, change your programs towards violence. There's programs called like Cahoots. There's programs in Brooklyn where if you actually get arrested for a violent offense in Brooklyn, you can actually, with the okay of the victim, negotiate a way to make it right that doesn't include jail time.
What?
You can negotiate a way, so like, what can I do as a service so that we can be cool? Because I don't want to do this again. We live in Brooklyn together. It was because I was, how can I make this right and not go to jail? And a victim can agree to that, and that happens. It's reduced the jail time in Brooklyn. Like, there are programs out there that solve this without having to worry about a cop showing up and shooting a 12-year-old. Right? And then when you look at prison numbers to take it even further, and you look at the fact that the average sentence for a murder case is about 11 or 12 years, you would quickly learn that there's actually more murderers out on the street than there are in jail. And so if the goal of prison is to keep the bad guys away from us, then that is an ineffective way to do it. Yeah. Right? And
we're locking up way too many people.
40% of the prison population is nonviolent and would not have a recidivism. First of all, murder has the lowest recidivism rate of any of the crimes. Violent offenses a lower recidivism rate than all the rest of burglar and larceny and all that stuff. It's a lower recidivism rate than all that shit. And the reality is that most of prisons, or 40% of prisons, put up with people that aren't violent in the first place. That didn't do something violent in the first place.
And here's where I want to come in with the defund. Not only do we need to start the program of defunding the police, as you just so eloquently talked about, we also need to stop the prison the prison industrial complex of
the carceral system
revenue. The police and the prison complex are a source of revenue in far too many ways.
Do you know whose fault that is?
Huh?
Do you know whose fault that is?
Who? Okay, fine.
It is Joe Biden's fault.
Okay, fine. We can talk about that, but you can beat up Joe Biden about that later. That's fine.
That's just not his part.
Yeah. I believe because of the crime bill.
What's that?
Is it because of the crime bill?
Yeah, help push that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
another conversation. But yes.
In the back of my mind, I think I know what you're gonna say about it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. My point is this. My point is this. When you make the police a revenue generating, when cities, when townships have it on their budget as part of their revenue is to put the tickets and the things that the police are going to generate, it makes them inherently corrupt. They have to be corrupt. They have to have quotas for tickets. They have to fuck with you about your tail light blinking wrong or being out or your sticker not being right. They have to do it because they got to keep the numbers up because Absolutely. They are dependent for your fucking things. And I know what you're going to, if anybody who's saying, well, where the fuck are we going to get the money from? This is one of those things that politicians do because people don't like paying taxes. You are paying the same taxes. Whatever you pay in parking downtown or paying for tickets, or say you don't get tickets, say you pay parking. The reason why you pay so much for parking is because they're trying to get you to get fucking tickets because they got to keep the ticket revenue up. If everybody paid for parking and they stopped giving tickets out, parking would go through the fucking roof. It'd be expensive as shit. And they would be making more money off of it. They wouldn't do it because they needed it to go up. They do it because they need to make it so expensive that you don't want to pay for it so they can write you a fucking ticket.
Yeah, the other part of that's true, man. The other part of it is like the way that policing works, right? Like you and I have both lived and been in both bougie neighborhoods and bullshit neighborhoods. And the way that police operate in bullshit neighborhoods is as a predator, right?
Yeah.
Like in bullshit neighborhoods, police sit on the corner and they scope out to look for somebody doing fucked up shit. And because there's usually in more crowded areas.
Well, they look for somebody that they interpret as maybe doing some fucked up shit.
Right. Oh, we pull this guy over, we can probably get an idea that he's doing some fucked up shit. Like the random stops of people in black neighborhoods versus like how they act in white neighborhoods, which is essentially as a defender of the people's homes that live there. Like the whole police unit in Beverly Hills is only there to make sure that nobody breaks in the houses in Beverly Hills and that anybody who ain't supposed to be in Beverly Hills gets the fuck out. And in Compton, the whole job is to catch any and all criminals that they can make into criminals doing anything they can determine is crime any way they can catch them doing, wherever they are.
Yeah.
And that is just a different way of policing that needs to change.
Yeah, like, policing is insane. The amount of money we spend, people always talk about tax dollars. The amount of money we spend, I'm going to say something. I used to do door-to-door sales in Los Angeles. I did door-to-door sales. I sold AT&T U-verse. If anybody ever knocked on your door in Los Angeles about AT&T U-verse, you're watching this, it was because of me. It was my fucking company, literally because of me. That's not a brag. I'm just saying.
That's just the reality of how it works.
If you got it and you liked it, you're welcome. And if you hated it, it was a bad experience. So anyway, sorry. But anyway, my point is to say this. While I was doing that, I had a LA ghetto bird, the fucking police helicopter, called on me at least 3 times. Like, and the first time it happened, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And the second time it happened, I saw it, but we were very close to a highway and near the 101, where the 101 and the 405 connect. Yeah. And so I just thought it was like a traffic copter. And then I saw the squad cars come up, and I was like, oh, no, they're here for me.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I was walking around in a AT&T Polo. I was bald then, but I was walking around in an AT&T Polo and khakis and shit, or in a business suit. Those were my 2 options. I was either in a business suit or AT&T Polo, and I was talking to people, clearly engaging with them. Like, no, there was nobody, like, I'm a big dude. Nobody fucking screams at me, like, get the fuck away from me anyway. But I'm a professional comedian now. I was pretty good at the door, making people laugh and stuff. So I rarely ever had any conflict with anybody. In LA, I don't think I ever did. So there was never anything. It was just
nobody had a reason to complain about you. Somebody just saw you and made a decision.
Somebody like it wasn't the people that I was talking to. It was somebody on the other side of the street that I hadn't gotten to yet. You know, that was
get a chance to find out you were funny.
Yeah. They didn't hit the jokes yet. We didn't get to the jokes yet. So,
speaking of a joke, man, the president has announced 2 major upcoming speeches. He's doing one in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on June 19th, and he's doing another one in Jacksonville. And the one he's doing in Jacksonville is going to be on the anniversary of the axe handle attack that happened in Jacksonville. If you don't know the axe handle situation, well, first of all, let's talk about June 19th, because that is Juneteenth. For anybody who is unfamiliar, that is the date of the emancipation of slavery. Technically, that's how we celebrate it. That is a big deal for us. And so for him to be able to do a campaign rally in Tulsa, which also is, as a lot of white people are learning now, the home of the massacre that happened of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that is 99 years ago, by the way, not even a full 100 years ago. In other words, like before 2016, the Cubs had not won a World Series, and that had happened in between there. Okay, so like that was that's how recent it was. All right, there was a point where the massacre had been more recent than the Cubs World Series. Okay, so up until about 4 years ago, that was the truth. And so, you know, that was a time in which the National Guard and citizens of Oklahoma, white citizens, got together to bomb a very successful area of black population who had done very well financially. They called it Black Wall Street at the time, and they literally just came through and slaughtered a bunch of people. It is one of the most heinous attacks on black people in this country outside of slavery itself. And so that's where he's planning on giving a speech on Juneteenth, which will also probably most likely be a speech written by Stephen Miller, which means there probably won't be a lot of capitulation to anything dealing with black lives or them mattering in that speech. Also, he's giving a speech on the anniversary of, on August 27th, which is the anniversary of Axe Handle Saturday. It is when a time in Jacksonville, Florida, a bunch of black people decided they were going to sit at a counter, and a bunch of people showed up with axe handles and literally beat the shit out of them. And so he is choosing to give his GOP nomination speech at the GOP convention on that date. So the reality is like either they obviously know these dates and what is involved and are using them as a fire starter, or they don't know, and that is also a problem of ignorance.
There's 0% chance they don't know.
Of course, there's 0% chance they don't know.
As a matter of fact, I heard him say.
They asked him about it, and he laughed it off the same way that racists always do. Yeah. This is that shit that Lee Atwater was talking about. This is exactly the game plan. I'm telling you, if you are listening to this and you haven't looked it up, look up Lee Atwater and Southern Strategy, and there's always a paragraph that comes up about how you can't say nigger anymore and how it changes and how they keep doing this. And they'll pretend like they're not racist, but this is the straight up racist move.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
It's amazing to me how being told that they're racist, or somebody being told that they're racist, it's amazing to me how offended people are by that. And the reason why it amazes me that people are offended so much by that word is because all of those motherfuckers, like the people who get the most offended, they do racist shit. Like they do mad racist shit. So is the offense like the great line from Hamlet? Methinks she does protest too much. The lady does protest too much. Is it that, or is it either a place from guilt or a place of masquerading who you are, or is it really just like some kind of blindness?
So
that they don't see the racism that they do.
I think the reality is that there are people in this country who literally believe that we are not of the same level of human as they are. And there's just no way of getting around that concept with them. I mean, I have gone through links to try and explain why equality should happen. And the answer, like, always dances around this thing of a belief that we are just not the same quality or level of or capacity of human being that they are. That's why when it breaks down, there's always all these dog whistle names like thug or animal, or that's why it's always that shit, because or monkey or whatever those diminishing terms are, is because it's always a reduction. Like the movement back to the mean is always this movement where we are not, because that is also the problem of slavery for white people. Is because that's also in the DNA of these people. Whether you were born here or not, or whether your family's from here or not, you also are understanding of this history over generations that you are now here. Well, we moved here to the 1900s. Yeah, but the subjugation of black people was part of this world that your whole generations have gone through too. And so I'm not even sure if it's always on purpose, or whether that's just an internal thing that happens, and that they just have, there is the underlying real issue is a lack of believing that black people and white people are only differentiated by the continent in which our ancestors came from, and that's really it. and there isn't any other thing.
I always come back to this simple line: if we were inferior, you wouldn't have to oppress us.
Absolutely.
And
that's not to say we're superior. It's just this is how you keep equality from happening.
There's nothing about superior. There's nothing about superior. If we were inferior, you wouldn't even need the fucking police. You know.
Yeah.
The dog catcher is not running down dogs in the street like your motherfucking cops do us.
Before we get out of here, I want to remind everybody that COVID is still on fire. I think 14 or 15 states have had record highs in COVID results. There's, it's an evolving science. The thing about science is people think that science is what they were taught it was in high school, and that's not necessarily science. Science is a lot more than that. And so to think that there's going to be an exact answer and it would just be all over, or that we would know it in March and that would be the same answer that would be true in July, that's just not how science necessarily works. They're working through a hypothesis in real time.
Hey, Bobby, I can tell you, science doesn't work like that in high school either, but motherfuckers weren't paying attention.
But I mean, you go, what is science? And people go, well, it's when you create a hypothesis and then test it to find out whether your theory is true. And I'm like, that is the most basic 4-year-old version of explaining what science is. Yeah. Like, we are living through
that's something a scientist does.
we're living through the test of a full science experiment in real time right now. Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of people who are getting sick. So I don't, patios are open, but I'm not sure if I would risk it just yet. I'm not trying to jump out there and catch that shit.
I'm still I got an alcohol mister. I got a mister filled with alcohol. I'm still spraying takeout bags, my dude.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. Stay safe. Psst, psst.
So listen, stay out in these streets. Where can people find you on social media, man?
You can check me out at XL Comedy on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also Xavier Lamont on Facebook, or Morning Wood with Xavier Lamont on Facebook.
Oh, Morning Wood is back. I like
Morning
that.
Wood is back.
You can catch New OGs Pod at New OGs Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow us on Facebook, where we have our shows going live now every week that we have these on. You can find me at Mocha_Jesus on Twitter and Instagram. Go to People of Comedy Network, watch all their shows, follow them as they're doing live stuff going on from the protests on a daily basis.
Stay tuned.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for paying attention and listening. We will be updating more resources and references as we go on. Keep it live. Keep it in the streets. That's what's up.
So many doubted, fuck
them
on that. They gon' have to pay our tickets, sell our shows before we hit the road. They said we couldn't do it, now we do it just to say we did it. Fuck a critic on my pivot. I've been ballin'. Engine louder than some pain. When I started. Fuck your bitch, now she attachment.